Hi, in this video we're going to cover how much does it cost to ghostwrite a book. I want to make sure you don't get ripped off and that you find a ghostwriter that's perfect for you. By the end of this video, you will learn the typical price range for a ghostwriting project, the way costs are typically broken down, and the best way to trim your costs. And it has nothing to do with hiring the cheapest ghostwriter you can find. Let's dive right in. The typical price range for hiring a ghostwriter usually starts at $25,000 to $30,000. It could go as high as $100,000 or more, depending on the experience of your ghostwriter and the talent that they bring to the table. That seems like a lot of money, and it probably is, but it also speaks to the quality and the talent level of the ghostwriter. If you end up hiring somebody for much less money, it's more likely that you're going to get a lower quality of writing, that you're not going to have somebody with as much experience. When we think about that amount of money, that bulk of money, it's not like you're paying it at one time. And that's the key to a good ghostwriting project. It's that these payments are broken into milestones. They're broken down into 20 to 25% increments. So you're not paying the full $25,000 to $30,000 at one point. You're paying maybe $5,000, maybe $7,500, maybe $10,000 at a time. And because of that, there's accountability on both sides. There's accountability for your writer to do the best work possible so that you're actually paying for high quality work. But there's accountability for your ghostwriter as well, because they want to make sure that they're getting paid for the work they've completed. I've actually worked on projects previously where I did much of the writing and turned it around and sent it to the person I was working with, and then I didn't get paid. That's a really difficult thing, and something that I learned very quickly as a ghostwriter to make sure to space out the deliveries and the payments so that everybody's on the same page and everything's fair. When you're paying for a ghostwriter, you're paying for peace of mind. You're paying for quality. You want to know that your ghostwriter is going to do a good job. And when you start paying less and less money, there's more and more concerns. There's more and more possibility that they're not very talented, that they're not very experienced, that they don't know what they're doing, that they haven't been through this before, and the quality level is going to go down. You think of all the issues that could crop up, if you hire an inexperienced ghostwriter. From having to ghostwrite the project, to having to take over the writing of the project yourself, if the writer's not doing a good job, concerns about quality, concerns about copyright, about plagiarism. There's so many issues that can crop up during the writing process, and if you're not working with somebody who's experienced, the likelihood is that you're going to face some of these pitfalls and issues. When working with a ghostwriter, people typically want to lower the cost of the ghostwriting, and I don't think that's the best way. I think the best way to lower your costs while working with a ghostwriter is to do some of the work yourself, some of the planning work, some of the prep work. You could work on the hook and outline of your book and really figure out what the book is all about before you engage a ghostwriter. Maybe you write a couple chapters yourself and then start working with them. And if you have those things ironed out ahead of time, it's going to make it so much easier, but it's also going to lower the ghostwriting cost because they're not going to have as much to do with the book because you've already done the work yourself. I think that's a much better process than going on Fiverr or Upwork and finding somebody who's inexperienced, and then you run the risk of having to do it yourself, having to hire somebody else midway through, cost overruns, time overruns. There's so many issues that can crop up during that process. And if you can carry the bulk of that prep work early on, it's going to make things a lot simpler and also lower your costs. Something else to keep in mind as you engage with a ghostwriter is that there are probably going to be other costs related to the book publishing. The ghostwriting is one element of the process, but it's not the whole process. There could be production costs, there could be marketing costs. There's other things to keep in mind, and I think a lot of times when I work with clients, they look at the ghostwriting as the component, and they think, my book is done, that's great, which it is, but then there's other costs involved along the way. Whether you traditionally publish or self-publish your book, there are probably going to be costs incurred through that process, or there may be costs that you want to incur to make sure that your book gets the widest publicity and attention possible. So you want to keep those elements in mind. You want to keep those possibilities in mind as you engage with a ghostwriter, and think of this as one step of the process and not the entire process, because otherwise you could find yourself paying a lot more money overall than you actually anticipated. You know, when I think about the cost of a ghostwriter, I think about one specific client who came to me after he was working with a different ghostwriter. It didn't work out, and he ended up working with me, and we ended up finishing his book, and I was really proud of it. If you hire the wrong ghostwriter, it can really set you back. It can really just undermine the entire process, and it can cost you a lot more money in the end, and it can cost you a lot of time in the end. You know, you might anticipate that the book is going to be published in June, and then because of the ghostwriter slowing you down, it might end up December or next year. Like, it might really slow down the process. So it's important to be mindful of finding a quality ghostwriter from the onset and seeing that through, because that's really going to help your ability to publish this book in the time frame and with the cost that you anticipated. If you want to learn more about book ghostwriting, head to my website, goodghostwriter.com. There you can sign up for my emails and you can get tips and information about working with a ghostwriter. You can also sign up to book a call with me and talk one-on-one about your book project. Remember, good ghostwriting makes great books.